Hi, my name is Troy Kilgore, and I'm a painter from Indiana. Although most of my photographs are for reference, I have made several paintings using only photos, especially when I don't have time to paint a study or when it's not practical, like standing in the middle of a busy intersection. Over the years, I've taken thousands of photos. A few have allowed me to recall the scene as I saw it the day I took the photo to paint from it. You'll have fewer problems painting from photos if you first understand the camera's bias. 3 of the major problems a camera can show are lack of shadow detail. Shadows can become plugged. Distortion, especially when we rely on the default zoom factor of the camera. And false contrasts. I've chosen this photo for demonstration not because it's the greatest image I've seen to paint from, but because 1, it represents a typical landscape, and 2, it has several camera bias that I need to address before I can paint from it. The first is false contrast. Cameras aren't always discerning when it comes to shadows, and we can see that in many instances when dark shapes are shown as having similar values as they recede into the distance. This just doesn't happen in nature. Contrast control is important for showing depth in the painting. The second camera bias is low shadow detail. Sometimes cameras just don't capture shadow shapes well, so I usually fix that by raising the shadow levels until I can see detail. I never get a perfectly adjusted photo, but after all, it's just for reference. It gives me options, not answers. The third camera bias is distortion. Most smartphone cameras use a default wide-angle view for pictures. This tends to exaggerate perspectives, making background elements look smaller and further away. I compensate for this by making those backgrounds larger. Before I start, I try to imagine how I'm going to break up the landscape into foreground, middle ground, and background. This will help me control my contrasts, as I mentioned earlier. It will also help me plan my values and color choices. Atmospheric perspective in a landscape is essential. Knowing how to promote it will give your painting depth. There are at least 5 devices for promoting atmospheric perspective. Cool it, gray it, de-emphasize detail, de-emphasize contrast, and lighten it. All of these devices can be used by themselves or in any combination. The first thing I want to do is transfer my drawing. I've made a small sketch and I put some marks on it to transfer it up to a larger canvas. I usually start a painting with my shadow shapes. I think shadows need to be fairly thin, so I will extend the shadow shapes past boundaries in the beginning and cut back into them later. I do this because I don't want to risk muddying the color if I see that I need to make a particular shadow shape larger. Now I'll start to add the lights. Changes I make from one element to another, in this case the lights and the treetops, will only be subtle shifts in temperature or value as they come forward. Sky holes, or bird holes as they are sometimes called, look like they are part of the sky, but they belong to both the value of the tree and the sky equally. Don't get too carried away with highlights. They can attract a lot of attention and can cause unwanted distractions. Temperature accents can add life to a painting. I sometimes use a palette knife to soften edges instead of a brush. The palette knife will fold the paint together instead of blend it.